Good morning. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News Now, coming to you from our digital desk. We have some breaking news right now on the city's east side. A massive church fire of a three-story church. This is in the Miles Park neighborhood. In fact, it's at East 91st and Miles Park. You can see the fire has completely consumed the entire inside of this church. It is completely destroyed. The roof has collapsed. This call came in at just after 7 this morning. Again, East 91st and Miles Park Avenue. We're still trying to determine the exact name of the church at this point. We just wanted to get on live with you. We've actually got a couple of different cameras here this morning as the firefighters. Really, at this point, we've seen this in the past when they arrive to something like this that's fully engulfed. They are on a defensive position here, just making sure the fire stays inside the church, doesn't spread to the outside or any structures that are surrounding it. But it is a complete loss. There are a number of crews here at the scene, but it is just devastating for this neighborhood and for this church. As you see, there is nothing but the brick structure left. The entire inside, the stained glass, everything is gone. And at some point, we'll have to be watching and look at the structure side of this. And I believe our Katie Tursek is live out there. She's about to do an interview, so we will listen into this as she does this.
Hi there, sorry about that. I just spoke to a neighbor right here that you witnessed the fire. Tell us what you just saw and heard.
No, I was in the house, so I heard the planes first. So I looked out my window, and the smoke was way thicker than what it is now. That's why I grabbed my mask, because I thought you couldn't breathe out here. And I decided to walk over here, and it was just burning. It was just burning crazy, but it was like 5 minutes. It was up and, fire was coming out of everywhere. I can believe how fast it started burning. Then I seen the fire trucks. They all came over here. But like the other guy said, somebody probably was in it doing something. But to me, that looked like some type of chemical because it burned too quick.
Right, and you also just told me that this, you believe, is an abandoned church. So nobody was inside of this fire, but how it started, what do you think?
I don't know, but I hope that, nobody was in it, nobody's in there hurt. But it looked like some chemical type stuff, the way it's burning. It burned too fast.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. We're so glad that you're safe and that everybody else is safe. One thing that I want to point out is you're going to see that there are two houses that are next to this church. Over here to my right, there's also houses to the left of the church. I saw that fire officials were knocking on their doors, asking them to please get out just in case of fear of this fire spreading. That way everyone is safe in case that does get to this point. As you can see, this is a massive fire. Like I mentioned before, you can see through the church, you can see the sky, the smoke, the fire. There are multiple crews that are here putting water on this fire, just trying to put it out. Of course, come back to us as we do continue to keep you updated here on Live in Cleveland. Katie Tursek, 19 News.
And Dan DeRose with 19 News. We're going to continue our coverage here on our digital platforms. That was our Katie Tursek giving us a live update there at the scene. We do know that this plume of smoke that our photographer is showing us can be seen for miles. So if you've been on the road into work, or if you're at work or about to leave for work, very good possibility that you will see this amount of smoke, this plume on your way into work. Interesting to note that as that gentleman said, a neighbor that lives there, that he believes this is an abandoned church, and we're going to check on that. I want to show you now, even though these pictures are incredible, and as our photographer gets reset there, I've pulled up Google Earth to show you the exact look of this church before the fire. Just based on this Google Earth image, and granted we're not sure when this was taken, when the timestamp, we can see that on this sign it looks like it was the Pentecostal Determined Church of God. And again, not sure if it is still a church in operation, according to the neighbor that Katie Tursek just interviewed, that it was an abandoned church. So we'll wait to get further details. But this was a massive church, a really good-sized church, probably close to 100 years old, if not more so. And unfortunately, the sad news today, and even as we look at some of these pictures around, you see the overgrowth that tells us, yes, this probably has been an abandoned church for some time. So just want to spin around a couple more times just to get a good look at all sides, especially from the angle that Katie Tursek, there's the two homes to the right of the church that she was talking about. Police and fire have gone and asked them to leave. But when you see that, and then we flip to this live picture, very sad and devastating for anyone who spent time in there. Think about the number of weddings that were probably held in this church, the other memories for the people who went there. Again, it looks like it was the Pentecostal determined church at one point. At least that was the signage that shows us that perhaps the last time it was in operation, that was the name of the church. I believe the Pentecostal. I want to look one more time at that sign. Let's see, I don't see an L in there. The ENTE, Pentecostal Determined Church of God, is what it looks like from the signage. But again, not exactly sure how old that Google Earth, but when we look at that, that's what we're dealing with. Just an absolute devastation for this church that will more than likely have to be knocked down at this point. As you see the pictures, there's nothing left, and at some point, I've covered enough of these fires that when you lose that roof and when you lose the entire structure on the inside, now they're going to be worried, and you can see our Katie Tursek moving into position for her next shot here, her live shot on television. So as soon as she goes to that, we'll listen in. But again, the structure and those walls are going to have to be come into question. You've lost all the support from the roof, the beams that more than likely stretched across on the inside. That will be the next concern, is the collapse of the walls of this church. And that's why we heard Katie say they were going door to door of the nearby homes, asking them to leave, because once the walls become unsafe, there's the steeple on top. You can see there what appears to be some sort of chimney or stack on the back of that building. If that were to go, you have to start to worry about homes around. You can actually see over Katie's right shoulder the Union Miles Historic Neighborhood sign. Let's listen in.
Firefighters, they have gotten a handle on this fire from what it was from when we first got here. I just spoke to a neighbor here in this area, and he says that he believes that this church was abandoned. We've also heard that nobody was injured. Stay with 19 News to bring you the latest this morning.
So just a quick update there from Katie. That is the good news. No injuries at this time. But now it just becomes the structural integrity of what's left. Those massive brick walls, the steeple on the top. Again, just to show you kind of a pulled out picture of what the church used to look like. There it is from Google Earth. You have to worry about the steeple there on the left. The bell tower, I'm presuming, is what that was. And then we saw earlier that chimney stack on the back. And we'll just stay with these pictures, and we'll wait for perhaps Katie's next report here coming up. But again, you see the Union Miles Historic District sign there to the left. And it's going to be a sad day for this neighborhood. This is a church that's clearly been in that neighborhood, perhaps was a staple in that neighborhood for decades and decades, and now has been just completely destroyed and is basically useless at this point. Just completely gutted on the inside, and it's so sad as you see, even as they continue to spray water on the inside, you see pieces of it, pieces of the church coming down. You can still see some embers on the inside, some flames there. So just an incredibly sad day for the historic Union Park, the Miles Park neighborhood, the Union Miles neighborhood, as they are coming to terms with the loss of a church. And I want to look at that sign one more time that Kevin is, our photographer, is zoomed into. Normally, and I'm looking around at the church on Google Earth to see if we can see a date on the church. Normally there's a historic date plate that tells us perhaps the year the church was constructed. I'm looking around on the exterior. I haven't seen anything just yet. It's Pentecostal. Is that what it is? That's the P is missing. The Pentecostal Determined Church of God. Yeah, it looks like on the sign it should be Pentecosta, the Pentecostal Determined Church of God. We'll do some quick research and see, just to determine. Again, the neighbor told us he believed the church was abandoned. Basically looking at, I'm going to show you what I'm looking at Google Earth. You can see a number of the windows had already been boarded up on these pictures, and so we'll just keep track of this, and we'll try and get some calls out and see if in fact that this church had been abandoned or was no longer in use. But again, it's in the Union Miles Park neighborhood, the Union Miles neighborhood, and the exact address is 9105 Miles Park Avenue, 9105 Miles Park Avenue. And unfortunately, we've seen a couple of these church fires recently. And the one thing that always comes to mind is you think about how many happy occasions, there were of course sad occasions, funerals that had happened in this church, marriages, happy occasions, perhaps you had baptisms that took place in this church, and just a very sad situation here as
about this is that it looks like that crews do have a handle on this fire for the first time since we've been here. When we showed up, those flames were just erupting. You could see it from miles away on the highway. People all over social media commenting about that. So when I say we do have reassurance that this fire seems to be under control here, and it looks like that nobody was injured. People, they have been evacuated as well from their homes. They've been knocking to make sure that neighbors are okay. And then I do want to say that emergency management services, they are here on scene. There is a stretcher out here, so just in case there is some type of an injury, they are equipped and they're ready to go, and they will be able to handle this. Of course, stay with 19 News as we bring you the latest here in Cleveland. I'm live here in Cleveland, Kate Tursek, 19 News.
Dan DeRose with 19. I'm going to continue our coverage here on our digital. Julia, say that again for me. Miles Park Methodist Church. We're doing some research. Our desk is helping us with our coverage here, trying to determine exactly the church origin here. And we do believe, just from our cursory research here, this church dates back to 1872. So what we're talking, 150 years old, and it has now been reduced to just a shell. We believe it opened as the Miles Park Methodist Church, and probably operated as such for decades and decades before perhaps closure and handing off to other church entities. We believe the last time it was used was as the Pentecostal Determined Church of God, and that's where this stands right now. Katie is jumping back in front of our shot there for another update, probably at the top of our 8 o'clock. And I'll tell you, our desk crew, let's get this last hit in with Katie to give us the latest information, and then we'll start to wrap this up. Again, no injuries here. That is the good news. The other good news is, as we, even though Katie said that the fire department had gone to the homes next door, I want to just show this again. The good news is that there's this vacant lot to the side here that even if the walls were to collapse, it does not appear that they would reach that second home, but out of an abundance of caution, the fire department, the police have asked the people of the nearby homes to evacuate just for now out of caution. On this side, you have the street. We'll check behind the church to see how close. It does appear that some homes on the back side, Katie said, they've also asked those people to leave. But again, there's a little bit of space there that if the walls were to collapse, my fear would be maybe that chimney might be able to reach if it collapsed to this home. So we know that people here have also been asked to evacuate just out of caution because that structure is probably not going to be safe for much longer. But it's not like we have homes butted right up against the church, and I just can't get over how beautiful of structure this was and what this is going to mean for the people of the Union Miles neighborhood as they look at this structure and just the devastation, and know that all that history dating back to 1872 is just absolutely a total loss here. Our Katie Tursek getting set here for her hit on our 8 o'clock news on CW 43. So we'll listen in here for the very latest, and then we will probably wrap up our digital coverage as the fire department does have this much under control from what we saw earlier. Let's listen in.
Jamie, that is correct. Here we are at Pentecostal Church of God, where crews have been battling this fire, I would say, for the past hour or so. And you can see that there is a lot of smoke. It is deceiving, though. There are some flames that are still here at the bottom of that church. So that's exactly why, you know what, we're not there yet, but we're getting there here in Cleveland. But crews have done an excellent job at monitoring this fire, because as people saw from miles away, they could see the smoke from the highways, and they were wondering what that was. Well, that's because of a church fire. Here you're looking at it. I want to walk you through a couple other things that, you know, EMS is here. They do have a stretcher out here as well, and that's just in case somebody is hurt. But right now we're learning that nobody is injured. Firefighters were also going door to door here in this neighborhood, asking people if they were okay, saying, you know, maybe you need to evacuate just because of how close the homes are to the church. Other than that, it's really just keep on putting water on this church to make sure that this fire stays contained right now. We also learned from a neighbor that I spoke to, telling me that they believe that this church is abandoned, and they think that the cause of the fire, maybe they alluded to something being potentially, someone was inside of there doing something that they shouldn't have been doing. That's what we have right now. Of course, I want you to come back to us here, and we'll bring you the updates throughout this morning. I'm live here in Cleveland, Katie Tursek, 19 News.
Dan DeRose with Channel 19. We're going to continue with our coverage. We've been checking with county records. This is an interesting note here that the Pentecostal Determined Church of God purchased the property in 2004. So they've had the property for some time. Now, there has been some interesting movement as far as applying for permits for construction. There was a permit purchased through the county in 2023 for new construction, and under that permit it was said that it needed to be re-inspected in 2024. So we're just telling you what the county website can tell us here. But if there has been a permit purchased for new construction within the church in 2023 and then that it had to be re-inspected in 2024, it does make it sound like the church had been closed, but some fashion of work had been going on inside the church, or at least had been planned in the last year, and then that work needed to be re-inspected at some point this year. So that's definitely going to lead to some questions when investigators try and determine excuse me, what started the fire. We'll have to look. Was there construction going on inside? Was there some remodeling perhaps going on inside at the time? And then why at 7 o'clock this morning? It's always interesting, and now that we're seeing that there is a permit process, I don't know that we can say this was entirely abandoned, but we don't believe it was being used as a church, but was somebody doing work inside. And you always wonder at a structure that's dormant, whether it has power to it or not, continued. How does a church suddenly that appears to be abandoned at 7 in the morning, how does it catch fire? Was there somebody inside? It's not very often that a church just spontaneously combusts, catches fire on its own if it's been sitting abandoned for some time. So we're going to be on this story obviously all day. The historic Union Miles neighborhood losing a church that's more than 150 or right around 150 years old, built in 1872. And unfortunately, all of that history, all of those memories are now gone. If there are any other developments on this, we will bring it to you here on our digital platforms or on our 11 o'clock news on CW43. But a very, very sad day, to say the least. A church that has stood for 100 years, a century and a half, is now gone. What started as the Miles Park Methodist Church has been destroyed by fire. Again, if we have any of the other updates, check our website, cleveland19.com, or check with us. We have a 9 o'clock news that takes place on CW43, and we'll have the latest there. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a good day.
19 News is everywhere. Download our